Lesson 1, orchestration, creating long-term business impact. Let me start by explaining what I mean by orchestration. Majority of sales enablement and commercial enablement practitioners today are stuck in what we call response enablement. Response enablement is an important capability in a lot of companies because it's reactive. And most companies are competing today on speed. As a result of that, the ability to create initiatives, launch them, and move on is a lot of how leaders perceive the value of enablement. In this course, we're going to talk about a different kind of value, a value about connecting the dots, the value found in simplifying, the value found in bringing people along, the value found in removing complexity, not doing stuff. The vision here is to evolve to a function down the road, but you can't do that if you're not clear on what orchestration means. This is a very simple list of the various activities and actions that you may see in your organization. You actually may be in charge of some of these. The challenge with these activities is it becomes cross-functional eventually. For example, the role of training in marketing, coming together, or the use of pitch decks in training, the use of account plan activities while pursuing leads, things like that. These activities don't necessarily come together in cross-functional business processes. Like, hey, how do we hire new hires? Or how will managers reinforce? Or how do we help salespeople sell more? And that's a challenge. So these challenges look like a very leaky, kind of loosely assembled group of people working on an engineered sales funnel, but it's not brought together. As Scott Santucci talks about in his webinars, the challenges in the commercial system create chaos that impacts sales and marketing's ability to work together. This conflicting information makes it harder for salespeople to sell. And think about it. Is the commercial system today actually organized in order to make a very holistic, clear picture come together in the mind's eye of your customer? There's a lot of uncoordinated effort across marketing, sales, product, and engineering groups. This is not on any one group, but when you think about how does this all to come together in front of customers, there's a lot of challenges in how things are sequenced, how they're scoped, how they're prioritized, how they're sized and integrated. In fact, many organizations actually create initiatives that cancel each other out. Accountability creates challenges in finger pointing and friction. Everybody's jockeying for being right as opposed to getting it right. So let me ask you, what stands out to you about this picture? How do you think this relates to orchestration? How would you answer that? How does this relate to orchestration? And if you were going to fix this situation and fix this challenge, where would you actually start? How would you do that? Is it somebody else's challenge to fix this? Or is there something you can do? What do you think? Let's look at it this way. Who's responsible for the success of salespeople? When you ask that question, you think about the previous slide, there's a lot of confusion, and salespeople are stuck in the middle, not in the middle of your department, like product or marketing or enablement, but in the middle between your company and your customers. Uncoordinated efforts and lack of accountability put salespeople in the middle, which impacts performance. So if the people are stuck in the middle between your company and environment on the left, and all these things that are happening, some challenges that are happening on the left. And then on the right, all these challenges that exist inside the customer environment. There is a lot to figure out. And it's really hard to have clarity in this situation about what to do to help. In addition, in the middle, there are a lot of variables. And the thing about salespeople today is they're connecting the dots across all these things. And when you think about what it takes for them to be successful, you have a choice. You either fix the salesperson in the middle or you tackle the environment around them. And that's the choice that you have. To me, the ultimate goal of commercial enablement is to figure out how to help salespeople sell to drive revenue and achieve the strategy. But to do that, you don't tell them what to do. You make it easier for them to do it. And that means tackling the ecosystem they operate within. So this is where orchestration comes in. We're going to talk about moving from response enablement, where we're actually adding complexity, to simplifying, which means moving to commercial enablement to elevate the strategic impact of what you're doing in order to simplify what's happening with sales. So what is that path forward and how does it look like? Well, it's not going to happen overnight. Let me run through an example of what a 2-year plan could look like. And I'm not saying it has to look like this, but the 2 to 3 years that it could take to elevate is critical to think about, because if you promise too much about what you're going to be able to tackle on this left side picture, where you're maybe in a response enablement activity mode, and you're not really coordinated, and there's a lot of pressure on you, and you have a lot of people coming at you, and there's a lot of asks, and then you move to something that's more clear, that's more systems oriented, systems focused, predictable, optimized, and scalable. What do your executive teams want? This is an interesting one because a lot of them don't know what they can have. If you were to ask them which would they prefer and show them this picture, what would they prefer? If you take this picture away and ask what they prefer, they might actually say, I want the left. It's really hard. So if you take a step back and look at it, this kind of left side responses is almost like applying Band-Aids to that leaky funnel. As an orchestrator, what you'll have to do is operate in both areas at first. You're going to have to operate in the left and the right. And that means going on a journey over time. You cannot just wave your magic wand. A realistic way to orchestrate this change is by putting up kind of a 2 or 3 year plan, a journey in place, so that over time you can plug in initiatives and approaches and even vendors and resources. And that way you can evolve and help people inside the company understand how you're evolving your function. From the salesperson's perspective, what would they prefer? From the executive's perspective, what would they prefer? From your company's customers' perspective, what would they prefer? This is the challenge, because what they would prefer is a simpler ecosystem, but your company is not set up that way. That's why orchestration is valuable. And that's why when you go through this course, we're going to talk about the key ingredients you need on this orchestration journey. You're going to have to be patient, and you're going to have to think about what the differences are. The more clear you are on the difference between doing random and orchestrating value, the easier it is to navigate. So what is your value? Is it in being delegated to, like this list on the left, where you're supposed to fix salespeople? You're supposed to provide assets and upload them. You are an individual contributor that produces training and teaches. Is that the value of your function? How would that look? Which is that supporting? How do you then move to something that's elevated? Thinking in terms of ongoing services. Now, there's going to be a whole module on services, but let me just give you the placeholder here, that there is a way to orchestrate and elevate services to sales and support them. There is a way to fix the ecosystem that salespeople operate within. There is a way to establish sales enablement as a function. There is a way to run enablement as a business within a business and partner to close the gap to customers, to be more agile and adaptive. There is a way to do this. It just means you have to have a plan. It means you have to take the time to figure out the mentality, the skills, the design, the structures, what it means to drive productivity, what it means to remove waste, what it means to influence, what it means to connect the dots, what it means to deliver a message, having a clear vision. It's a lot to figure out. And I'm going to help you through this course. Don't worry, we will tackle this. But you'll find that working through this is not easy. And that's why we will do it together. If you don't believe in those 5 things on the right, if you don't believe that you want to do those, then this quest is not for you. You might as well not continue. Remember, I gave you a choice at the very beginning about the quest to take. If you do not choose to do the right side, then don't do this quest. Orchestrate sales is not for you. So these are the things that you need to do in order to, just like in the game of Monopoly, do not pass go without collecting your money in the game of Monopoly. This is what's required to pass go in this quest. This is what we're going to explore across the courses that I showed you in this whole experience. So let's talk about a way to engage in all this. And I'm going to start with this because it's important to layer out some things as you're tackling this challenge, because it's so big and so complex. If we don't have some things that we've laid out here, you're going to want to know what the answer is. What's the answer? What's the answer? What do I go do? I have to get off this and I have to go build something. Tell me what to go build. That's not what this is about. We're actually trying to figure out what not to build. We're figuring out what not to add to the commercial system. We're focused on being clear. We're focused on getting things right, not just getting things done. So that means we have to be very thoughtful. And so you're going to have patience. The first way to be thoughtful is, what's your vision? What are the right things? If I were to ask you that, what does it mean? How would you answer? Hey, do the right things. Who's defining what right is? How would you answer that? And then when you figure out what those right things are, can you do it by yourself? Can quote unquote your team just do it? Or are you interdependent on other teams? Once you know what those right things are, how do you bring together the right people, process, information, and technology to do those things right? What's the process? What's the procedure to do those things right? Do you know what that is? How does the work happen in enablement? How do you make it better? What if the work that you do is more about quality than quantity? How does that impact what you do? And then how do you help people improve over time? How do they develop mastery in their area? How do you align their strengths and roles to improve? Do they know that what they need to improve? Do they want to improve? Improve what? Improve their ability to build things, or improve their ability to drive the right things? There's a difference between building things and doing the right things. What are those? A lot of questions, I know, but this is why we're on this quest. The more you engage and reflect, and maybe even pause the video and sketch this out, the more you reflect and the more you think this through, the more impact you're going to have. Look, you either do the work on the front end, or like I say, you'll end up doing the work on the back end when you have an escalation or you run out of time, things like that. So let's do the work on the front end. Let's figure it out. All good architects do the work on the front end before they start building the house. So what does it mean to architect? What does it mean to structure, to build, and to maintain? How would you develop those capabilities in your function? What does it mean to architect? Architect what? Well, your function or your initiatives. What does it mean to be a general contractor and orchestrate what? Your function or your initiatives? What does it mean to do those things right or improve over time? How would that look? So as you're thinking about this journey of moving from delegating to elevating, you have a couple of ways to get there. You can think of orchestration as a skill, or you can think of it as a process, or you can think of it as a strategy. But what if you think about orchestration as a capability? What if you thought about it as a capability? A capability is like an ingredient that can be combined with other ingredients inside your company. For example, your product, your vision, your customer data, the knowledge of the organization, you can bring all that together with what you bring to the table. When you apply capabilities in that way, it creates additive value. Have you thought about orchestration and enablement as a capability, or have you thought about it as a job title? The more clear you are about the capability of orchestration and enablement orchestration that you provide, the more distinction you'll have and the more clarity you'll have in what you're doing versus others who are doing the work only in their siloed view. When you think about orchestration in this way, the value you provide goes across the organization horizontally, if you will, not vertically silo by silo. The bottom line is think about what you're doing and how you're doing it across the organization. Focus on customer experiences, interactions, and bringing all those capabilities that your company has together in the eye of the customer. So the capability you bring to the organization is a value add to what other people are doing. And that means you'll have to orchestrate. If you think about the game you're playing, the game of orchestration, the game of enablement, the game to innovate, who's leading? And how would you know? Would you walk into a room and just declare, hey, I'm an orchestrator? Or would you lead by example? If you started to conduct an orchestra, would people even follow you? Why would they follow you? Just because you have the title? You have sales in your title or enablement in your title? Or is it because just people like you and they'll do it for a while? Why would people follow your lead? Well, I'm going to talk about what it takes to do this. I'm going to talk about what it takes to lead. I'll share with you frameworks and tools, and I'll help you tackle this. This is a real important discussion, though, because this is about influence as it is about anything else. Because orchestrators are leaders. They're leaders who drive results by design, not effort. They're leaders who are mission and goal focused, who prioritize the right goals at the right moments, unlock energy to create momentum, activate change through collaboration, and guide the narrative by confronting reality. By undertaking and knowing what your company values, you're going to be able to make better choices of where you spend your time. The ultimate goal of commercial enablement is orchestration in order to simplify the ecosystem for salespeople. This is not just about the leader and being the leader. It's about everybody working together to orchestrate outcomes. Anybody that you work together that's perhaps on your team also then needs to be an orchestrator. They need to understand what it means to drive results by design, not just by being a heroic effort. They need to think about and understand what it means to put the company goals first and put the team goals first and put salespeople's goals first. The enablement team will have to prioritize at the right moments. That means trade-offs, decisions, tactics, strategy. What does it mean to create energy and unlock momentum? What is momentum? Especially when you're asked to do something new. In this space, we're talking about like, how do you get outside your comfort zone? How do you take small incremental steps? How do you use new tools? How do you figure out what your gaps are? What does it mean to confront reality? Whose reality? What is reality anyway? right? I mean, we're in such a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world that what we used to hold on to no longer seems as valid. We need to develop new techniques and approaches to confront the reality that's emerging. The reality is that customers have the control. The reality is they want experiences. The reality is they're moving way faster than your company. The reality is they want the integrated view. They don't want point solutions in many cases. The reality is that there are all kinds of different ways that buyers want to be treated. It's about specifics that come together into an integrated view. So let's reflect. I gave you a lot to think about. I want you to grab your participant workbook. In your participant workbook, you'll see reflect on being an orchestrator. See this little icon up here? And anytime you see this, it means open your participant guide. There's something for you to do. I'm not here just to give you things to think about. I'm here to help you take action. And one of the key things about being a leader in a business is reflecting. What did you just hear? What do you agree with? What is your point of view? How curious are you? You opted into this quest. I gave you a chance to opt out. I even gave you a chance to opt out a couple of minutes ago. Why are you here? What does it mean to be an orchestrator? So there are several questions in the workbook. Do you blend strategy and tactics? Give me an example. Write it down. Do you align to the company's visions and outcomes? Write it down. How? Do you bring people together? Give me an example. How do you facilitate change? How do you engage with curiosity? Give me specifics. Specifically, how do you do this? Pause the video, open up the participant guide, do the best you can. There are no right or wrong answers. Take the time to do this. This is critical. Pause the video and unpause it when you're done. Okay, welcome back. How did that go? Well, I hope it went well, because that's how you're going to start figuring out how to fill those gaps, if you have any, and also how to reinforce what you're doing well. I'll ask you to reflect periodically, and you'll be able to reflect in your workbook. No, I'm not going to give you the answers. No, I'm not going to check your results. You can chat them in the group. You can get other people's perspective. But there really is no right or wrong answer. This is about your journey. You're the one on the quest. So what did we talk about? Well, you're going to need to be intentional about your differentiation. You're going to need to role play this out. You're going to need to have a talk track about the value that you want to create. Orchestration is a capability. It's different than coordinating and communicating. We say we work with people, but are you orchestrating? You might actually have orchestration in your title, but there's a difference between coordinating a project and sending emails and orchestrating. The value you bring to the company will be in bringing together the moving parts, simplifying the ecosystem, and creating something new. You're going to have to move from delegating and doing to elevating and clicking up and orchestrating. There's 6 attributes of being an orchestrator. Do you remember what those are? What are the 6 attributes? Do you remember? These are the attributes. Drive results by design, mission and goal focus, prioritize the right goals at the right moments, unlock energy to create momentum, activate change through collaboration, guide the narrative by confronting reality. We're going to talk about each of those, and we'll work through that as we continue into module 1, lesson 2.